Strange, isn't it, when you're Meghan Markle, because seemingly you do have something of a distant relative called the Truth, and I say that very nicely. We saw that, didn't we, when she sat down with Oprah Winfrey, and then those sort of tissues, those itinerary of strange commands that she claimed happened, didn't. But that really hasn't stopped Meghan, you know, the stories just keep on coming. And what was interesting about that particular interview was the way that she rebuked a lot of the ideas, particularly regarding the senior lines of the British monarchy. But seemingly now, as ever with Meghan, she's found a new truth and she's having a change of heart. Let me explain. Hi, good morning, Neil Sean here in the very heart of London. Nice to see you today, truly. And of course, yeah, with all of these big stories, it does fascinate me, as I'm sure it fascinates many. A lot of people say to me as well, you know, what about the other royals? Well, the other royals right now are not as vocal or as busy, seemingly because they don't have anything to plug. Right now, most of the senior members of the British monarchy are taking it in turns to visit our wonderful and gracious Majesty the Queen up at Balmoral while she takes her usual summer retreat, which I could join her myself. Apparently, I didn't know if you read this or heard this, but this is lovely. Apparently, the Queen loves jam sandwiches. Something else we've got in common. I love a jam sandwich, don't you? It's particularly kind of decent jam, you know. Oh, the bread, the butter, the jam. Absolutely delicious. And again, you know, it's that wartime stuff, isn't it, where people weren't so prissy about having the right thing. As long as it was nice and tasty, did it matter? You know, nowadays, of course, it'd have to be organic, trampled on by 100 elephants or something, you know what I mean? But in the old days, you just had blackcurrant jam and all those stuff. Did, of course, your generation actually go and sort of go jam picking, you know, berry picking, and then your mum or your grandmother would make the jam. I found it fascinating and far tastier than the ones that you buy. So hats off to Her Majesty the Queen for bringing that back. Back as ever though to your other breaking story of the day. This really all centres on that fact where, you know, when Meghan sat down and she basically said, oh, you know, she was used to seeing celebrities. I know, I love the way she just dissed the royals. Yeah, I'm used to seeing celebrities all the time. You know, I live in California. Didn't quite equate the same thing as a life of service. Is not that of a celebrity, you know. A celebrity is a person who gets paid to turn up, do things, you know, that sort of stuff. Basically, the royals do this because it is a life of service. They've chosen that to represent that charity, the British monarchy, wherever, as ambassadors around the world. And the biggest sort of contrite thing was she didn't care about titles. They meant nothing to her, you know. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because while she doesn't like titles and they don't mean anything to her, seemingly they do, particularly when you're selling books that nobody wants to buy. The Bench, for instance, Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. And it's interesting, wherever she goes and whatever she appears on, she has to be titled that now. Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, or indeed the Duchess of Sussex. The people over in Sussex, let me tell you, here in the United Kingdom are not too thrilled about that. But building a brand is hard, as Meghan and Harry are finding. So we can tell you this first and exclusive. It's interesting because Meghan has now decided that she'd like everyone to address her as Duchess Meghan, particularly just the staff, you know, the people around her that work, because the idea really was, of course, to make her sort of become Princess Meghan, but that really didn't take off. And that's all thanks to the fact that over in the United States, people are referring to our wonderful Duchess of Cambridge as the People's Princess, Catherine. So really, when you're up against somebody like that, it's not going to work. But seemingly on a professional level now, finally, Meghan Markle, former actress in a cable TV show, has finally admitted the value, even to herself, it must be a first, the value of what a royal title can do. And of course, if you're pushing forward and wanting to meet people, particularly when you're trying to get celebrities to pop up on your podcast, or indeed turn up for, you know, celebrity endorsements, that sort of stuff, there's nothing like the royal cachet to make sure people will take your phone call. As we found out when she ran the People, when she was writing and trying to get to Congress. You remember that? She introduced herself as Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. Seemingly, Prince Harry's very happy about this now, but of course, that's truly is trading on a royal association. And how much longer would she be allowed to do that? As ever though with Meghan, I'm not so sure whether she should be too fussed if anybody told her off or not. After all, many people say it's Meghan's world and just very few live in it. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.